Surprise, surprise, look who caught them with their pants down, their masks off, their hands deep in the cookie jar of betrayal. Look who finally has the receipts, the screenshots, the evidence that would make a jury gasp and a judge slam the gavel before the opening statements even finished. Hello to you, the one they thought was too naive to notice, too broken to document, too scared to act. Hello to the beautiful chaos conductor who just flipped the entire chessboard while they were still planning their next move. They got comfortable, didn't they? So comfortable in their deception that they forgot the first rule of war. Never underestimate the one you were destroying. They thought you were asleep while they plotted in broad daylight. Thought you were blind while they practically live-streamed their betrayal. They got so cocky with their little schemes, their group chats, their synchronized lies, that they forgot one tiny detail. You were never the fool in the story. You were the documentarian. And now here we are at the most delicious part of this tragedy turned comedy. They're scrambling, aren't they? Deleting messages, changing stories, suddenly developing amnesia about conversations that happened yesterday. Their genius plan to destroy you just became evidence exhibit A through Z. The trap they set for you, you turned it into a stage. The grave they dug for your reputation, you transformed it into a monument to their stupidity. See, what they never understood about you is that pain doesn't make you weak. It makes you observant. Betrayal doesn't make you bitter. It makes you strategic. Every lie they told, you cataloged. Every scheme they whispered, you recorded. Every time they smiled in your face while sharpening knives behind your back, you were building a case file that would make the FBI jealous. And the best part? They handed you all the evidence themselves, gift-wrapped with their arrogance. Let's rewind to that beautiful moment when their mask slipped just enough for you to see the monster underneath. Maybe it was a text sent to the wrong person. Maybe it was a conversation you weren't supposed to overhear. Maybe it was that one friend who couldn't keep their mouth shut after 3 drinks. Whatever it was, that was the moment the simulation glitched and showed you the code. That was when you realized you weren't paranoid, you were prophetic. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of confronting them immediately, like they expected, instead of having the emotional breakdown they were counting on, you did something that still keeps them up at night. You went quiet. Not the quiet of defeat, but the quiet of a predator who just spotted prey. You became the silence before the storm, and they mistook it for submission. They thought your silence meant you didn't know. They thought your smile meant you were still fooled. They thought your continued presence meant their plan was working. Little did they know, you had transformed into something far more dangerous than an enemy. You had become a director, and they were unknowingly auditioning for the role of village idiots in the movie of their own downfall. Every day after that moment of revelation, you gave the performance of a lifetime. You played the role they cast you in, the naive one, the trusting one, the one who never saw it coming. And they bought it because their ego wouldn't let them see the truth. That you were 3 steps ahead, recording every confession disguised as casual conversation, screenshotting every digital footprint of their deception. You turned into a ghost in your own life, didn't you? Present, but not really there. Engaging, but not really connected. You became a professional collector of their sins, and they were so busy sinning, they never noticed the camera rolling. They got bold, got sloppy, got comfortable in their cruelty, because they thought you were too broken to fight back. But broken things have the sharpest edges, and you were secretly sharpening yours. skills you didn't know you had, the ability to smile while documenting betrayal, the talent for asking innocent questions that made them reveal everything, the gift of making them feel so secure in their deception that they stopped being careful. You learned their patterns like a scientist studying lab rats. When they lied, how they lied, the specific words they used to manipulate reality. You mapped their entire psychological blueprint while they thought they were mapping yours. You became fluent in their language of deception, while letting them believe you couldn't even speak it. And through it all, you collected screenshots that would make their lawyers sweat, recordings that would make their mothers disappointed, evidence so damning that even their flying monkeys would have to admit defeat. You built an archive of their true nature while they were busy trying to archive you. But here's where you transcended from victim to victor, from player to game designer. Instead of using all that evidence for destruction, instead of going scorched earth like they deserved, you did something so unexpected, so brilliantly twisted, that they still can't process it. You turned their master plan into a meme. You transformed their serious attempt to ruin you into the joke of the century. You took their carefully crafted manipulation and made it funny. You grabbed their gaslighting and turned it into a punchline. You transformed their betrayal into content so absurd that people couldn't help but laugh. Not because the pain wasn't real, but because the audacity of their stupidity deserved nothing more than to be mocked into oblivion. You see, they expected tears, but you gave them laughter. They expected revenge, but you gave them ridicule. They expected you to wage war on their level, but instead, you elevated the entire battlefield into a comedy club where they were the unwitting performers. You didn't just expose them, you made them into a cautionary tale wrapped in humor. The memes started flowing, didn't they? Their quotes became Instagram captions for what not to do. Their schemes became TikTok trends about red flags. Their genius plan became the blueprint for every how to spot a narcissist post. You didn't just win. You turned their loss into educational content for others who might face the same betrayal. Oh, the panic when they realized what you've done. When they saw their master plan trending as a joke. When they heard people laughing at what was supposed to be your downfall. They tried damage control, didn't they? Suddenly they were the victims. Suddenly you were the cruel one for misunderstanding their intentions. The gaslighting went into overdrive, but it was too late. They tried to spin the narrative, but you had already turned it into a disco ball. Every angle they tried just reflected more of their ridiculousness. They attempted to rally their troops, but even their most loyal supporters couldn't defend what had become indefensible. They wanted to be taken seriously, but you had already transformed them into the punchline they always were. The private messages started flooding in, the threats disguised as concern, the manipulation dressed as apology, the rage masquerading as reconciliation. They cycled through every tactic in their playbook, not realizing you had already published their playbook as a comedy special. They were trying to play chess, while you had already turned the board into a meme template. And the beautiful irony? The harder they tried to salvage their reputation, the funnier it became. Every defensive post, every attempt to rewrite history, every flying monkey they sent just added another layer to the comedy. They became a self-fulfilling meme, a joke that kept writing itself, a disaster that couldn't stop trending. But you weren't done, were you? Because turning their plan into a joke was just the appetizer. The main course was showing everyone how to do the same. You didn't just defend yourself. You created a template for every person who's ever been targeted by these kinds of manipulators. You turned your pain into a masterclass, your experience into an education. You started sharing the tactics, breaking down their manipulation methods with the humor of a late-night comedy show, but the precision of a psychology professor. You made it safe for others to laugh at their abusers, to see the absurdity in the abuse, to find power in making fun of those who tried to break them. You turned trauma into triumph, but more importantly, you turned it into something teachable. Your comment sections became support groups, disguised as comedy clubs. People started sharing their own stories, their own screenshots, their own evidence of similar betrayals. You created a movement without meaning to. A revolution wrapped in humor. A healing space that looked like a meme page but functioned like group therapy. And that's when they realized the true scope of what you've done. You didn't just beat them at their own game, you changed the game entirely. You made it impossible for them to use these tactics again because everyone was now in on the joke. You turned their weapons into toys, their strategies into comedy sketches, their entire methodology into content for others to study and laugh at. The ripples started spreading far beyond your original circle. Their other victims started coming forward, emboldened by your approach. People who had been silently suffering suddenly found their voice in humor. The shame that usually accompanies being fooled transformed into shared laughter at the foolishness of the perpetrator. You became a beacon for everyone who'd ever been gaslit into silence. Your memes became permission slips for people to stop taking their abusers seriously. Your approach showed that you don't have to meet darkness with darkness. Sometimes you can just turn on the lights and laugh at what's been hiding there. The copycat memes started appearing. Their tactics became so widely mocked that they became ineffective. Try to gaslight someone now and they'll just share your message with a laughing emoji. Try to manipulate and you'll become the star of someone's TikTok. You didn't just protect yourself, you vaccinated an entire generation against their brand of toxicity. And the most beautiful part? They can't even be mad about it publicly. How do you complain about becoming a meme without confirming that the meme is accurate? How do you defend yourself against humor without looking even more ridiculous? You put them in a checkmate where every move just makes them look worse. Let's talk about why this approach was so devastatingly effective. You understood something they didn't, that power comes not from fear, but from the ability to inspire laughter. You recognize that making someone ridiculous is far more powerful than making them afraid. Fear can be overcome, but being a joke, that's forever. You tapped into the collective exhaustion people feel with manipulators and gave them permission to laugh instead of cry. You transformed the narrative from "look what they did to me" to "look how stupid they looked trying." You shifted the power dynamic so completely that they went from predator to punchline without understanding how it happened. You taught them people will actually hurt. You showed them how deep it went and how it feels. And they went. You saved Pat. By making it funny, you made it shareable. By making it memeable, you made it memorable. By making it relatable, you made it revolutionary. You turned your personal victory into a public service, your individual healing into collective empowerment. You proved that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rendering your enemies too ridiculous to ever be taken seriously again. You also demonstrated advanced emotional intelligence. Instead of letting them drag you into the mud, you turned the mud into a comedy sketch. Instead of meeting their low vibration, you elevated the entire situation into something productive. You showed that healing doesn't have to be heavy. Sometimes it can be hilarious. Now they're stuck in a prison of their own making, aren't they? Every time they try to use their old tactics, someone recognizes it from your memes. Every time they attempt manipulation, someone laughs and screenshots it. They've become walking red flags. Not because you expose them with anger, but because you expose them with accuracy wrapped in humor. They can't reinvent themselves because the internet is forever, and you made sure their tactics became part of internet culture. They can't find new victims because you educated an entire generation on their methods. They can't even complain about it without confirming everything you revealed. You've created their permanent predicament, relevance through ridicule. The best part is watching them try to adapt, watching them attempt new tactics only to have those immediately recognized and memed. Watching them try to rebuild their reputation while their entire playbook is being used as a what not to do guide. They've become educators against their will, teaching everyone exactly how not to behave. And you get to watch it all with the satisfaction of someone who didn't just survive, but transformed survival into an art form. You get to see the ripple effects of your courage wrapped in comedy. You get to witness the healing that happens when people realize they can laugh at what once made them cry. But let's talk about who you became through this process. You discovered that you're not just resilient, you're innovative. You learned that your trauma response doesn't have to be traditional. You proved that healing can look like whatever works for you, even if that's turning your pain into the internet's favorite joke. You developed skills you didn't know were possible. The ability to find humor in darkness, the talent for transforming pain into punchlines, the gift of making others feel less alone through laughter. You became a translator, taking the complex language of manipulation and abuse and translating it into something everyone could understand and mock. You also discovered your true power, the ability to not take seriously those who tried to destroy you. You learned that giving someone the gift of your anger is still giving them something, but making them irrelevant through humor, that's taking everything back. You mastered the art of emotional alchemy, turning their lead into your gold. Most importantly, you showed yourself and others that there's no right way to heal. Some people need therapy, some need revenge, but you needed to laugh, and in laughing, you gave others permission to do the same. You proved that sometimes the most revolutionary act is refusing to let those who hurt you have any serious impact on your life. The memes keep evolving, don't they? What started as your personal coping mechanism has become a cultural phenomenon. Their tactics are now so widely mocked that they've become cautionary tales told through TikTok sounds and Twitter threads. You created a new language for discussing manipulation, one that strips it of its power through humor. Support groups now share your memes as icebreakers. Therapists reference your approach as an alternative healing method. People who once felt alone in their experience now have an entire community that speaks in inside jokes about shared trauma. You turned isolation into connection, silence into laughter, victimhood into victory. The academic papers will eventually be written about this phenomenon, how one person's refusal to take their abusers seriously created a shift in how we discuss and process betrayal, how humor became a tool for mass healing, how memes became more effective than traditional exposure in preventing future harm. But you don't need academic validation. You have something better. The messages from strangers saying your approach saved them. The comments from people who learn to laugh at their situation instead of drowning in it. The knowledge that somewhere, someone is screenshotting their manipulator's messages, not with tears, but with anticipation of the meme they are about to create. They wanted to be remembered as the ones who broke you. Instead, they'll be remembered as the inspiration for 1,000 memes. They wanted to be feared, but they became funny. They wanted to be powerful, but they became punchlines. Their legacy is being the cautionary tale that makes people laugh while learning. Your legacy? You're the one who showed that healing doesn't have to be heavy. You're the pioneer who proved that you can transform trauma into triumph through humor. You're the teacher who educated through entertainment, the healer who helped through hilarity, the warrior who won with wit instead of weapons. Years from now, they'll still be trying to live down becoming a meme. They'll still be recognized as the example of what not to do. They'll still be the inside joke that bonds survivors together. Their genius plan became their permanent internet footprint, and you were the artist who painted it. Meanwhile, you'll have moved on to bigger and better things, occasionally chuckling when one of your old memes resurfaces. You'll be living your life fully while they're still trying to scrub their digital reputation. You'll be creating new content while they're still trying to contest the old. You won so completely that you don't even need to think about them, except when someone shares how your approach helped